Sessional, but
oh, it is.
Your fancies, or is it the first one at least?
First one?
Don? Hey, Don.
Good to see you again.
Just have to make sure you turn on your microphone. You singing?
I am.
So just make sure to turn the microphone on the bottom. Yeah.
Well, we'll do two from the end on the national anthem, and also a standard intro on Hail to the King. Half the people do that. Even the youngins?
Huh? I guess the youngins are always graduating.
Let me know when they hit the tent. When they hit the edge of the tent, we'll do the processional. Yeah, today. Huh? As soon as they get to the edge of the tent, I'm going to go and make an announcement, please.
They start moving in.
We're about to hit the edge right now.
Into the edge. If they stop at 9 o'clock, that they did stop. So nobody's made an announcement yet.
We made the fire and safety.
Oh, maybe that's all. Everybody looks ready.
Okay.
No, just put, yeah, and then I need to, that's good. I knew something strange. Perfect, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Schreiber, Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs here at Salve Regina. The community of Salve Regina University extends to all gathered here a very warm welcome. Please remain standing and join us in the singing of the national anthem, which will be led by Dr. Donald St. Jean, Associate Professor of Music.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly dreaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Dr. Teresa Ladrigan-Welpley, Vice President for Mission Integration, will offer the invocation. Please remain standing until after the singing of the university hymn, Salve Regina, Hail Holy Queen. The words to the hymn are found on the inside back cover of the commencement program. We will be led again by Dr. St. Jean.
Let us pray. God of mercy, we ask your blessing upon our graduates who we honor here today. They've been shaped and grown in this community of mercy. Animate them with your love and compassion to share the gifts of knowledge and understanding, creativity, and empathetic action that have marked their journey here. May they become generous leaders and engaged citizens who serve, in the words of Catherine McCulley, as shining lamps, giving light to all around them. We ask your blessing upon the family and friends, faculty and administrators who've accompanied our graduates with such extraordinary dedication and care. May we all go forth from Salve Regina University with hearts and minds renewed to build a more harmonious, just, and merciful world through the offering of our lives. Our Lady of Mercy, pray for us. Amen.
Hail, Holy Queen, enthroned above, O Maria. Hail, Mother of mercy and of love, O Maria. Triumph for ye cherubim, sing with us ye seraphim. Heaven and earth resound the hymn, Salve, Salve, Salve Regina. Our life, our sweetness here below, O Maria. Our hope in sorrow and in woe, O Maria. triumphal ye cherubim, sing with us ye seraphim, heaven and earth resound the hymn, Salve, Salve, Salve Regina.
Please be seated. Sister Jane Gerety, President of Salve Regina University, Board of Trustees of the University, administrators, faculty, alumni, distinguished guests, relatives, friends, and especially today, degree candidates. We welcome you to our graduate commencement exercises. Today, we honor the university's commitment to lifelong learning by celebrating the achievements and the perseverance of our graduate students, often while pursuing careers and raising families as well. Dr. Tobias Stapleton, Dean of Graduate and Continuing Education Programs, will now address the Salve Regina class of 2019.
Thank you, Dr. Schreiber. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by offering, on behalf of the Office of Graduate and Continuing Education Programs here at Salve and our graduate program directors, our sincerest congratulations on this day, because today is a day to celebrate your achievement and reflect upon the effort, the energy, and the sacrifices that it took for you to get here. Many of you balanced your studies alongside your commitments to family, work, and life in general. You should be proud of this accomplishment. But today is not an end point, and helping our students to develop critical thinking skills and to prepare for the challenges of lifelong learning are both rooted in Salve Regina's mission statement. Today, while you represent the embodiment of these principles, we must remember that, as the saying goes, every achievement is servitude. It compels us to a higher achievement. The skills that you have developed, the knowledge that you have gained, and the confidence that you have strengthened here at Salve will assist you in whatever personal and professional goal that you may seek next. Today, we celebrate two milestones for the graduates. It's not only your graduation from Salve, it will soon be to celebrate your induction into a very special group, and that is Salve alumni. The people that you have met here, whether they were your professors, the graduate program directors, staff, or fellow students, or fellow classmates, will provide a network of support that may last, and often does, a lifetime. And frankly, we are proud of you and your accomplishments, and we want to hear about them, but we also want to, it's also that we support you and we care about you. And we want to hear about where you may need help. So if I can offer one piece of advice, albeit a pragmatic one, it is stay in touch. And also, many of you know that this is a very special graduate commencement because it will be the last one that Sister Jane will officiate. As many of you know, at the end of this semester, Sister Jane is stepping down as the president of Salve Regina. Therefore, we want to take a moment and recognize Sister Jane for her leadership over the last 10 years and for her considerable contributions to graduate education here at Salve. During her tenure, Salve has launched new programs, including the Doctorate in Nurse Practitioner, the DNP program, which today has borne fruit. We have our first 2 DNP graduates that will be taking the stage shortly. In fact, in addition to that, we've launched a fully online PhD in International Relations, a low residency MFA program, and a master's degree in nursing, administration of justice and cybersecurity, ADJ and homeland security, clinical rehabilitation and mental health counseling, applied behavioral analysis, holistic leadership and counseling, and innovation and strategic management. In a relatively short period of time, several of these programs have gained national recognition, and today many are highly ranked. Sister Jane, thank you for your leadership of Salve, and on behalf of the Office of Graduate Studies and Continuing Education and all of our graduate program directors, we want to thank you with this small token of appreciation. Thank you, Sister Jane. As many of you know, Sister Jane is a fan of William Butler Yeats, and a quote of Yeats's that she often uses is that education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. And we hope that we have ignited that fire in all of you and wish you much success in all of your future endeavors. And now it's with great pleasure that I introduce you to today's keynote speaker, who is a member of the class of 2019 and a student in the clinical rehabilitation and mental health counseling program. He embodies Salve's commitment to service and has had that fire that Yeats speaks about lit within him. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Adam Deciccio to share his thoughts on this important day.
Good afternoon. I'd first like to recognize Sister Jane, Dr. Nancy Schruber, Dr. Toby Stapleton, members of the Board of Trustees, graduate school faculty, family, and friends of the graduates. We are all here. We've all made it to graduation. So I will promise to keep my remarks to a brief 45 minutes. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Adam Salvatore Deciccio. I will soon be a Salve graduate with a degree in clinical mental health and rehabilitation counseling. Currently, I'm a regional manager for a nonprofit organization called Veterans Inc. And also, I'm a U.S. Army veteran that served in the 10th Mountain Division and deployed to Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. Now it's going to be 50 minutes. All right. All right. And Operation Iraqi Freedom. First, I'd like to share some context about my experiences that have informed my journey. I joined the U.S. Army Infantry when I was 17 years old, September 7th, 2001. It was 4 days later, the world changed forever. It was day 4 of our processing into basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. We had just had our heads shaven, been screamed at by drill sergeants, and tasted the wonderful Army food. Next to my barracks were prior service soldiers. This meant that they had left the service and were now re-enlisting into active duty. Due to their status, they were entitled to more privileges, much more than new soldiers. I remember clear as day that we had just finished our morning run. I was lying in my bunk saying to myself, this isn't so bad. I was an all-state wrestler. I can run and do push-ups for days. With the minutes of that thought, someone came running in from the prior service barracks and said, someone just bombed the Pentagon. There was disbelief, and someone said, who in their right mind would bomb the Pentagon? Then a soldier said, a plane hit one of the World Trade Center towers too. At that point, we knew something was not right and went next door to the prior service barracks. We gathered around the TV when at 9:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I witnessed the second plane hit the second tower. Within 30 seconds of seeing it live on TV, air raid sirens started going off on the base. Soldiers kicked in the door, dressed in full battle rattle, screaming to get to the bunkers. We were under attack. We were stunned and couldn't believe what they were saying. Less than 24 hours earlier, we literally had our heads shaved, and now we were all under attack. It was one of the most frightening things I've ever experienced. There was complete chaos on the base while they were trying to get all of us under control. People were fighting over phones and trying to call home to see if their loved ones were okay. Once I made it to a phone, I called my family. My mother picked up the phone, and with tears in my eyes, I said, "Mom, get me out of here. They say we're going to war." Like right now. My mother, who was also crying, and said, we were getting nowhere. My father then grabbed the phone and said, "Son, listen to me. We tried calling to get you out, and we can't. So stop crying and start paying attention." And he hung up the phone. The drill sergeants got us all in order, and we filed into the auditorium. We were going to be one of the first infantry basic training classes after 9/11. While sitting in the auditorium, a drill sergeant walked out who was missing an arm, had an eye patch, and looked like he's lived through every war since the Revolution. Then he started to pace back and forth, and he said, "How many of you are ready to go to war?" And all of us screamed in excitement. The drill sergeant yelled, "Be quiet, because you don't know a thing about it." That straightened me right up, and for the first time in my life, I was giving my undivided attention. He went on to say, "How many of you have signed up to see the world? How many of you signed up for college money?" Well, that's all fine and dandy. Those are choice words. But we're under attack, and you are going to fight whoever just attacked our country. Then he said something that would change my life forever. When you signed that dotted line, did you think you would be signing up to defend your country? Well, I'll put it to you this way. Do you think when those men, women, and children got on those planes this morning, they thought they'd be flown into those buildings? After he said that, I was ready to go, ready to serve. Over the next 6 years, I was deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq fighting for our country. It was my job to be on the front lines, and most of all, to keep everyone safe around me so we could all come back home. This was my mission. After those 6 years, I spent over 2 years in combat, witnessing and experiencing war. Since then, many people say to me, "Thank you for your service." Every time I hear that, I find myself fumbling over my response. Do I say thank you or you're welcome? And on top of that, sometimes I really don't even know what I'm being thanked for. I signed up to do a job. Maybe not expecting to go to war, but it was my job to serve and protect my country. As I thought about my comments for commencement, I realized my question is, what is service to you? For the U.S. Army has 7 core values. Selfless service is one of them. It's doing the right thing when nobody is looking, putting yourself before others, and doing what it takes to get the job done. When those towers came down, I knew that was my calling, for now. And it was no coincidence that I joined just 4 days before those attacks. This was the first time I experienced service, and I realized it was my time to serve my country. Once released from active duty, I struggled back into civilian life like most veterans do. What was my purpose now? What was my mission? At this point, I called my military service into question. I struggled with dealing with the repercussions of war, and I started to relive certain events, wondering if certain situations would have went a different way, would others in my platoon still be alive? I started to question the motives of why we're even fighting in these countries, and the answer always was because of the fellow soldiers to the left and right of you, and to protect our country. Once discharged, I was thrust back into a society that has changed since I left it 6 years ago, and found myself trying to fight into a society all over again. I had a chip on my shoulder and constantly compared myself to others who didn't go through what I went through. For most veterans and me, these thoughts and feelings usually lead to depression, anger, and trouble. After being out of the Army for a while, I found myself still losing my friends in combat, and worst of all, to suicide. Unfortunately, this part of my story is not unique to me, so I'm sure there's veterans in this audience today that have similar experiences. I've lost more of my military buddies to suicide than to actual combat. And I wondered, was this my punishment for service and my survival? Eventually, I sought help at the VA hospital and began searching for something that would fill the void that had previously given my life meaning. I focused my post-military life on helping newer veterans navigate the VA system, just like a Vietnam veteran did for me. After completing my undergraduate degree and still not happy with any of my career choices, my VA counselor recommended that I consider helping veterans as a career and pursue a master's in mental health counseling. After initial no way, I explored entering the clinical rehabilitation and mental health counseling program at Salve and realized it would enable me to make a difference in the lives of fellow veterans. And shortly after, I was hired by Veterans Inc. as a case manager and then promoted to regional manager for Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. I found my purpose again, and in part of Salve Regina, my program, and my service to my fellow veterans. At this point, I knew I had found my true calling, and it was time to serve once again. Salve has challenged me right from the beginning. I didn't know it at the time, but in order to complete this program, I was going to have to tap into a part of myself that has been dormant for many, many years. I knew that I would be discussing personal experiences with my fellow classmates that I just met and might have not had much in common with. Even for an experienced soldier, this was very intimidating. And there were many times that I felt I couldn't do it. So I do need to recognize and thank my fellow classmates, especially my school boss, for always allowing me to be myself and making me feel safe to share my experiences that have been very difficult for me in the past. I also want to recognize the program's faculty, especially Dr. Judy Drew, for believing in me and pushing me when I needed it, so thank you. Although the foundation of who I am was created in the Army, I realized towards the end of my program that I still have the ability to serve, even those who are not in the military. I have proven that I have the capacity to keep people safe in high-stress situations, and I have developed the skills to create and protect safe spaces for people who have experienced traumatic situations in their lives. Today, we are gathered here with friends and family to celebrate embarking on the next chapter in life. We are very fortunate to have attended such a historic, prestigious, and beautiful university. And while that is great, I firmly believe we all have a responsibility and an opportunity to now serve. We can make meaning of our lives through service, regardless of the disciplines we've studied and now pursue as careers. We can be ambassadors for Salve's critical concerns and serve by finding opportunities to work for the dignity of all people, to respect and honor our earth, to work against racism, to encourage the ability of women everywhere to have access to healthcare and education, and to work toward peace as advocates of a living and nonviolent life that is free of human rights abuses and gun violence. That could be our service. In closing, my mission now is to improve access to housing, mental health, and employment services for my fellow veterans. My goal is to help create more military and veteran-specific programs and graduate studies to encourage veterans and non-veterans to further develop their skills and serve their country in their own unique ways. As we graduate, it becomes our responsibility to take what we've learned at Salve, not just for our own personal gain, but to apply it to the people and situations around us. Our purpose, our mission, is in service to each other, wherever you choose to define it. What I have learned from my time in the military and at Salve Regina is that the traditions of Salve Regina and the Sisters of Mercy inspire me to continue to serve and work toward a world that is harmonious, just, and merciful for all people. May these traditions inspire you also in your journey. And finally, I will leave you with the motto of the 2nd Infantry Battalion, 22nd Infantry Regiment: deeds, not words. Thank you.
Adam, thank you. Our President, Sister Jane Gerety, will now address the Salve Regina University Class of 2019.
Well, I have to say, I really wish that I had been first on the program to speak. How could you possibly follow that incredibly beautiful and strong message that Adam brought to us, that I know resonated with all of you, and we stand with great pride with him as a graduate of the class of 2019. But I do have a message for you, which I'd like to offer. And as I look out on you, one of the things that occurs to me is that this group of graduates is not one size fits all. Each person and each journey is different in this class. But the one thing that I think you have, I know you have in common, is that you didn't get here alone. There were wives, parents, grandparents, siblings, and friends who supported you along the way. There were many unsung heroes in your lives, those who believed in you and those who were willing to sacrifice both their time and their treasure so that you could attain this degree. I think this is a degree that you will value perhaps more than undergraduates. You know how hard you worked for it, but you know how hard those who loved you helped you to work for it. They kept their promise to you, which actually sounds the theme of my talk. They kept their promise to you. So let's thank them now. And then there were the faculty who challenged you, nurtured you, and believed in you. They too kept their promise to you. Let's thank them now. You know, your family, friends, faculty, and staff have kept their promises to you, which leads me to the theme of my message for you today. And I'll begin on kind of a strange note. I remember, actually, it was a eulogy that a son was giving for his father. And in that eulogy, he quoted one of my favorite poems, Robert Frost, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. You probably all know it. You maybe even memorized it when you were in high school. And you also know how it ends. These woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. In this eulogy, the son, looking back on his father's life, concluded, "My father kept all his promises, and now he can sleep." You know, commencement is also a time of looking back and, of course, looking forward. No sleeping for you yet. It may be a little better that you don't have to write papers at the same time that you're doing full-time jobs, but no sleeping for you yet for you. But looking back, you can certainly say that you have kept so many promises, promises made to yourselves and to your family and friends. Think about the work that you've done here. You kept the promise to keep on trying until you got it right. You began in anxiety and doubt when you were writing those papers. You worked it through, and finally you got it right. You kept that promise. You kept that promise, especially those of you who are writing dissertations. And if you're anything like me, you felt guilty every single day that you weren't doing it. And you thought it would never, ever, ever get done, right? And then the pages piled up. RIP's pages numbered 750. They piled up high. But you kept that promise, and you got it done. You kept the promise to get the papers in on time and to make sure that all the work was yours. In groups that worked together on project, you kept your promise to hold up your end of the bargain. Outside of the classroom, you kept the promise you made to the friend to be there no matter what. And I know you've all had sorrows in your life, things that were difficult, suffering of friends, you were still there for them despite the fact that you were students. The promise you made to the boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse to be faithful. The promise many of you made to your children. The promise to read a story even when you had an exam the next day. And then there was the promise you made to help people that you don't even know, the homeless in your communities and refugees around the world. You weren't just being students here, you were living full lives that looked out and kept your promise to so many people. You believe, I think, with the poet Gwendolyn Brooks when she said, "Other people's children belong to us." Or another quote that I love is from Mother Teresa, who said, "The problem with the world today is that we have forgotten that we belong to each other." I know as you lived your lives, you didn't forget that. You kept that promise. You've made so many promises, and you have many more to keep, and I hope many miles to go before you sleep. But you know, we heard about the world that Adam stepped into after September 11th. When I think about it today, there are ways I think that the world that you stepped into when you began your graduate work was less dangerous than the world that we live in right now, where civil wars rage and terrorism lurks. So many people have lost faith in the institutions that they've always relied on, the government, the church, the internet. So many people feel that they can't count on these institutions to keep their promises, and yet you must keep yours. Promises to those who you serve in work, promises to those you love in family, promises to friends and to strangers, and promises to yourself. You know, many years ago when I was a lecturer at the University of Michigan, I remember this incident. It really sticks out in my mind. It was simple but rather profound. I was helping a student with his writing, and he wasn't a great writer, but what I realized was he was hanging on my every word, that he counted on me, that there was something I had implicitly promised to give him. Suddenly I realized this, how much he counted on me, trusted me. And in that moment, I knew it was more than a job. This was a relationship, that I had made a promise to him, and even if I was tired, bored, or distracted, I meant to keep that promise. That sticks in my mind, and it's something that I hope I can continue to do every single day of my working life and the life outside of work, to keep my promise to those who count on me. So imagine for a moment all the people in your work who will count on you to keep your promises. You who will be teachers, managers, law enforcement officers, counselors, researchers. People are going to put their lives, their money, their minds, and their hearts in your hands. They will count on you. And of course, your lovers, your friends, your children will count on you as well to keep your promises. You know, they're the big promises, the I do's, or in my case, the perpetual vows. But life is made up of so many little promises, and these are the ones that I think count as much. The promise to show up for those you love, to listen to them, to tell the truth, and to be there in sickness and in health. And we who commit ourselves, as you heard in Adam's talk, to work for a world that is, as Salve's mission says, harmonious, just, and merciful. Make a promise to people we don't know at all. People in Syria, Somalia, Newport, Providence, Boston, and all the places that you will land. One of the most important promises, I think, though, is the promise that you make to yourself. The promise you make to be true to who you are. There's a scene in the play, A Man for All Seasons. The movie is old now. And you know, it's the story of St. Thomas More, who had broken with Henry VIII, and Henry VIII wanted him to sign an oath. It was about the church, that he felt he absolutely couldn't sign. And he's talking to his daughter Meg in the movie. And Meg is actually urging him to sign it. Just sign it, Dad, just sign it. Because if he didn't, he was going to be executed. You can understand the love of a daughter for her father. But her father answers her when she asks him this. And he says, when a man takes an oath, Meg, he's holding his own self in his own hands, like water. And if he opens his fingers then, he needn't hope to find himself again. He goes on to say, some men aren't capable of this, but I'd be loath to think your father one of them. Thomas More's promise to himself is that he won't say or do what he doesn't believe, no matter the cost. Gerard Manley Hopkins echoes this theme of integrity when he connects vocation with our truest selves. What I do is me, he says, for that I came. For me, there's a balance, I think, a creative tension between being true to what I believe and standing for it, while at the same time being open to the beliefs of others. A university education, the Salve education that you have had, inspires us to do both. The promise that I make to myself daily is to be brave in proclaiming what I believe to be true and fighting for it. But at the same time, to be open to the truths of others who are different from me. There are things that I might be wrong about, probably lots of them, and my promise to myself is that I'll try to let that truth in, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. And as my truth expands, I will keep my promise to proclaim and to act on it. So, off you go today, having been congratulated, having finished the work, you're on your way. You're leaving the relative comfort of school and what I hope has been a caring community to go into a world that's different, more dangerous than the world you left when you began your graduate studies. My hope is that you will all have many miles to go before you sleep, and that you'll keep your most important promises. The one thing I know and believe so deeply is that a loving God will keep God's promise to you. The God I believe in is a God who can't take his eyes off of you, who takes delight in you, and who will love you no matter what. And so I say as you go, vaya con Dios. Go with the God who loves you to serve the world and also to serve one another and all those in your life. This God I know, in keeping God's promise, will help you keep yours. And to that I say, amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Jane. Sister Mary Patricia Murphy, Secretary and Treasurer of the Board of Trustees of Salve Regina University, will now invite Sister Jane to confer degrees on the candidates.
President Gerety, on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Salve Regina University, I invite you to confer this year's doctoral degrees and master's degrees.
Sister Jane will now confer the graduate degrees. All degree candidates, please rise. President Gerety, I am pleased to present the candidates who have qualified in all respects for the degree of Doctor of Nursing Practice, Doctor of Philosophy, and the degrees of Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Master of Business Administration.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the university, and upon the recommendation of the faculty, I confer on you the degrees of Doctor of Nursing Practice, Doctor of Philosophy, Master of Arts, Master of Science, Master of Business Administration, as you qualify under their respective curricula and with all the honors, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining.
All graduates except those receiving the Doctor of Nursing Practice, please be seated. Dr. Tobias Stapleton, Dean of Graduate and Continuing Education Programs, will present the degree candidates to the President.
Will the candidate marshals escort the graduates receiving the Doctor of Nursing Practice to the stage? Dr. Sharon Stager, Assistant Professor of Nursing and Graduate Program Director, will present the doctoral hoods to President Gerety, who will hood the candidates and award their diplomas. Kelly Esther Baxter. Helen Marie Price. Congratulations. Will the candidate marshals escort the graduates receiving the Doctor of Philosophy degree to the stage? Dr. Sean O'Callahan, Associate Professor of Religious and Theological Studies and Graduate Program Director of Humanities, will present the doctoral hoods to President Gerety, who will hood the candidates and award their diplomas. Ray H. Bird. Denise Marie Crimmins. Cynthia Seekirk. Lauren Fortucci. Washington Irving. Sarah Kortsunas. Tracy Lalibert. Peter Joseph Moons. Linda D. Pastrick. Clark H. Summers. Will the marshals please escort the Master of Arts degree graduates to the stage? Corey Sango. Dana M. Alvanas. Jennifer Lee Adams. Ashley Bassett. Amy Lynn Anderson. Kayla Marie Belanca. Elizabeth Erin Burrell. Christina Braga. Astrid Colette Burnham Alute. Howard John Cliff III. Kelsey Teresa Davidson. Adam Deciccio. Jenna Sarah Durdarian. Casey Donahue. Elena Tracy Drelu. Shiana Du Bois. Wendy Lay Darudawan. Sarah Elizabeth Eisner. Anna Alicia Faola. Francia Mercedes Fung. Deirdre Gendron. Alicia Gilbert. Kyle Grant. Sarah Averlyn Halfelder. Sean Patrick Hughes. Mackenzie Joanne Jaquith. Jessica Catherine LaMarche. Nicole Vivian Landry. Anna Marie Leonardo. Mr. Sergio Lopez Ruiz. Christine Elizabeth McCulloch. Christy Lynn Oderbach. Emily Ann Patterson. Alyssa Bell Pereira. Pamela Ellen Pomeroy. Ashley Nicole Pontun. Samantha Dawn Redman. Stephanie M. Resendez. Congratulations. Kelly Nicole Richards. Congratulations. Megan Lamar Rinaldi Young. Chloe Robertson. Allison Therese Smith. Evan James Schmidbauer. Emily Catherine Swift. Alessandra G. Widman. Holly Lynn Witherell. Will the marshals please escort the Master of Science degree graduates to the stage? Christina Ojayi. Stephen William Aston. Deborah Bailey. Megan Elizabeth Bouchard. Eric H. Bauk. Catherine M. Bell. Nina Bet Shalemon. Matthew C. Blair. Scott Joseph Brewer. Asa Joseph Burke. Samuel Brito. Brian Byrne. Mark Stephen Cataract. John H. Cronin. Elizabeth Drew Crawford. Gabrielle Catherine Cusano. John Douglas Crooks, Jr. Elizabeth Ann Davis. Congratulations. Mr. Ted Davis. Congratulations. Olivia Elise DeLea. Congratulations. Silas de Oliveira. William DiGiulio. Eli Winstone Diaz. Jean Ann Helger. Amy Elizabeth Donovan. Robert P. Flapp. Michael Joseph Fitzpatrick. Jasmine Bianco Franco. Sergio Gomez. Alexandria Hallam. Allegra Elizabeth Graziano. Michael William Horn. Charlene A. Hokinson. Michael Ryan Jakes. James J. Hudson. Victoria Solomon Jaja. Devin William Johnson. Kayla LaChapelle. Vanessa Lynn Joseph. Ronisha Lopes. Benjamin Elias Lescalt. Mackenzie Mandel. Jonathan Thomas Lynch. Olivia Milena Maxell. Lisa Manso. Alendra McGovern Simbob. Colleen M. McCarthy. Sarah Elizabeth McNulty. Rodney B. Morton. Faith Becke Munch. Connor Michael Murphy. Caitlin Marie Nagy. Brianna Marie Newman. Brooke A. Newsom. Nicole E. Pilati. Colin Ryan Palmer. Christopher J. Phillips. Stephanie Cara Ranucci. Congratulations. Jill Rasmussen. Mary Cross Reagan. Darwin Antonio Salazar. Alexis Christine Smith. Sherry Lynn Sprague. David W. Such. Julia Margaret Sylvia. Kirsten Brooke Tegtmeyer. Thomas Glenn Wagner. Emma Elizabeth Wilkinson. Tyler Peter Willett. Will the marshals please escort the Master of Business Administration degree graduates to the stage? Congratulations. Kaflan Abdullah Al-Breaki. Congratulations. Thank you. Darwin Almont. Ahmed Salim Al-Siabi. El-Siabi.
Oh, nice. That's right here.
Camille Lauren Amato. Corey Christopher Betts. Benjamin Lewis Brissett. Jillian Marie Bronson. Catherine Michelle Clerkin. Timothy James Connolly. Kevin Michael Connors. Claudia Emena Cornejo. Paul Angelo Criscioni. Alex Cusano. Adriana Nunes Engzuo. Benjamin Patterson Faulkner. Stephanie Lynn Ferreira. Lauren Elizabeth Ferry. Sarah Ann Gerety. Nathan Luis Gonzalez. Joseph Howard. Congratulations. Lily Mae Jones. Tara Lane Kellenbarger. Good to see you. Alexander Donald King. Kyle Leffler. Melissa Mason. Justin Anthony Manfredi. Chanel Miller. Michael Ryan Millerick. Brooke Leslie Ann Morgan. Michelle Marie Murphy. Cassandra Lynn Nicolosi. Brendan John Oakley. Braden Anthony Okiolotni. Congratulations. Patrick William O'Rourke. Margaret Ann Palmer. Ashley Christine Prokop. Rena Shrub. Michael Thomas Russell. Lauren Hayes Sullivan. Diane Toth Sweeney. Nicole Olivier Simons. Kelly Ann Tracy. Kevin James Tressel. Juan Husuga. Abigail Elizabeth Verrill. Sarah Ann Vicky. Catherine Elizabeth Walsh. Kenneth William Wanner. Andrew Robert Wisialko. Matthew Potter Wood. I am now pleased to commend today's graduates to Dr. Gerald Willis, Director of Alumni and Parent Programs, who will receive the class of 2019 into the Salve Regina Alumni Association.
All members of the class of 2019, please stand. Will all other graduates of Salve Regina University here present also stand to bear witness to the transition of the class of 2019 into the Salve Regina University Alumni Association? I welcome you now as you officially become members of Salve Regina's Alliance of Alumni, who will always be united with this university and each other by shared experiences and by friendship with one another. You join those who aspire to live by the ideals of Salve Regina and to carry on its mission. You are warmly welcomed to the ranks of Salve Regina graduates. Congratulations.
This concludes our graduate commencement exercises. Would you please all stand as the President, the Secretary, Treasurer of the Board of Trustees, platform guests, the faculty, and the graduates process out of the tent. The families and guests of the graduates are asked to please remain in their places until the entire procession has left the tent. We invite you to join us for a brief reception in the Great Hall of Ochre Court.
Thank you.